Whoop, that is the wrong screen. All right, that's all right. We can just move this down here. Okay, so here's what I've been working on. Many-to-many relationships in Schema.Blue. So for those of you that don't know, Schema.Blue, my ultimate goal with this is going to be to create a single source of truth for where all of your data is basically for the shape of all of your data. So it's starting off simple where you can basically just put in fields like strings, belongs to relationships, has many relationships, many-to-many relationships, which is what I'm going to talk about today. And that's it. So you can figure all of that stuff out, put it into one place, and then from there you can generate everything you need. So maybe you generate migration files, or what I'm most interested in is essentially generating types for my project, especially for projects where your front end and your back end are very detached from each other. This will allow me to generate types, and it also comes with a CLI tool which will allow you to run commands kind of like this. So I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's sort of like blue listen, and then you'll have like an env file where you put in like your project ID, so you can copy your project ID, put it in an env file, and then whenever new models are created, whenever new fields are added to those models and all that jazz, it automatically generates the types for you and updates them in the front end. It's a really cool experience coding this way, because you can jump into this app, build out a bunch of stuff, and in another stream I'll actually show you what this looks like, but I wanted to make this more of a vlog style video. But yeah, you can just kind of keep building things out and they automatically just drop into your app, and then you're ready to start coding. And the idea is this ties in directly to VueModel. And that's why I'm putting this in the VueModel series as well. Generates your types and your classes, and then you can automatically use those classes to then start creating, updating, deleting stuff and all that jazz. Okay, so I've been working on many-to-many relationships, and I wanted to talk through some of the problems that I had. So let's create here the concept of a photo. And then we're going to have a many-to-many relationship between a photo and some tags. So we got photo, we got tag, and let's add into the photo. We'll just add a field as an example. So maybe you have like a URL, and the field type of that is a string. And then you'd be able to select a component as well. I'm just going to leave that for now. And then the tag might have a name and a color, but let's just do a name. Name. There we go. And then the idea is this also generates a schema for you using JSON schema. So if we come down here, we can see that we have a tag that's got a name property that is a string, and this is going to be valid JSON schema. So we get the same thing for the photo. And that's the first part of it. So then you can add relationships as well. So the ones that I already had was has many, belongs to, and has one. That actually covers most things. You can actually do a belongs to many just with those three things. But in order to get a lot of the features that I wanted out of VueModel, I needed many-to-many relationships. So to be able to say, for example, photo.tags and then just feed that a bunch of IDs, you kind of need to have the concept of a many-to-many relationship, because your app needs more knowledge. It needs to know that a photo can have an ID of many tags. And that's why I really needed to add this in. I've been putting it off for ages because it's a really complicated concept, but this is what it looks like now. I'm not totally done, but work in progress. So we can say belongs to many, and we could say a photo belongs to many tags. And straight away, it basically figures out a bunch of stuff for us. So we can select an existing model for the pivot if we already have one, or we can decide to create one. So we're going to create one, and the singular name of that will be photo tag. I think it automatically does that alphabetically. PQRST, yeah. And then you can come into more here, and then add all of the extra bits and details about that pivot record. And this is really important because I want to make sure that, if this is going to be your single source of truth, especially for apps that already exist, then you need to have tons and tons of flexibility. And I know that in its current state, this is not going to be able to, people aren't going to be able to use this until it's super flexible. But, that's a goal that I want to aim towards, because I'd love to have something that allows me to have a single source of truth so everybody's on the same page. Okay, so that's the first thing. We've got our pivot record. You can select all of the related components. So from the perspective of a tag, getting photos, you can have a component for that. I'd have to set them up in my library of components. So there's also a feature in this app where you can set up components and all that jazz. So that's pretty cool. Field descriptions. So you can add in descriptions for photos or for tags, or photo description on pivot. So since this is automatically going to create the pivot model for you as well, it also gives you the opportunity to have a description on your pivot model for your photos and your tags. Even though you're unlikely to need this, because ideally you're not spending a lot of time on the pivot model, you're just sort of using it as a proxy to get your records. But sometimes people put other stuff on pivot models, and you might want to have that description on there. And then names and labels. So we've automatically figured out all of the sensible names and labels that are related to this. And this is what was really complicated, because it turns out for a many-to-many relationship, in order to truly define it, there's quite a lot of things you need to give the user control over. So they need to be able to edit things on the pivot record. You need to be able to edit things on the left side of the relationship, so for example, the photos, and then on the right side of the relationship, for example, the tags. And then you have to be able to edit the foreign keys for that. So all of this stuff needs to be, you need to be able to put the user in control, but all of this should be automatically figured out for you. So that's kind of what I've done here. By simply creating a photo and tags, we're now able to, let's just refresh the page to check if this is actually working and persisting. Nice, it is. So we can go tags here, and I just wanted to show you that it does automatically figure out all of this stuff for you and gives you sensible names. So now I can go ahead and click on create, and that actually creates two things. It creates the concept of the relationship. So we've got this belongs to many relationship, which describes everything needed for that relationship. So it knows what the pivot model was. So it also created this pivot model here. So it knows what the pivot model is, and it knows how to link all of those pieces of data together. And that includes, by the way, accessing the photo and the tag from the pivot model itself. And it also includes accessing the pivot model directly. So through a tag, you might want to be able to access your photo tags. So this pivot model here. So that's also included. So when we created that many-to-many relationship, we got photo tags, we got photos, we got tags, we got photo tags from the photos perspective. And then on photo tag, we also got photo and tag from that pivot model's perspective. So there's quite a few moving parts here. And generating the UI for this was a little bit of a nightmare, because you want all of that information encapsulated in one place. So in the back end, this is all sitting in one table. There's one table that describes the entirety of the belongs to many relationship. And that's really important, because I didn't want to double up any information. This is the idea of this app, is that it's a single source of truth, and the app I'm using to build it behind the scenes, I wanted a single source of truth for a belongs to many relationship. Actually, I'll give you an idea of what that looks like, because I think it's kind of interesting. Let me just find that. Just to give you an idea of, what was required for this. These are all of the fields that were needed, kind of starting from here, in order to describe a many-to-many relationship. It's actually quite involved, which is why it was a little bit of a nightmare to build. So it also generates, and this is the part that I've just finished working on, the schema for you. So now if I jump into photos here and we have a look at the schema for that, we get photo tags, and that's a has many relationship. So a photo has many photo tags, but then the relationship we're actually interested in is this tags relationship. So a photo belongs to many tags, and then it uses JSON schema to correctly define all of that, and then gives you all the information you need right here. And this is what we're essentially going to use to generate those TypeScript models on the front end, to give us that really, really nice user experience. And so the whole idea here, and the big dream that I have with this, is that you can go to a client, a potential client, you can talk to them about what they want built, whiteboard some stuff out using something like Miro or whatever you use as a whiteboarding tool. On the car ride home, you open up this app and you map out everything that you need. And then when you get into the office, it automatically generates all of your types for you, all of your relationships for you. And then using VueModel, which is what this series is actually about, so you can see now how they're kind of linked. Then using VueModel, you can literally jump straight into your project and start coding with something that is fully typed. And you can use the, what do you call it? Oh, I'm blanking on this. Then you can use the IndexedDB implementation of VueModel to create a prototype really quickly. So you don't even need a backend. And so I think it's quite realistic to, within hours, of a meeting, be able to get home, spend about an hour coding, and have a really epic prototype ready for clients to be able to play around with. That's my dream that I've had for the past. I've been talking about this for like 3 years now, and I feel like we're actually really getting close. And many-to-many relationships was a huge part of that puzzle, because I realized even though you can kind of do many-to-many relationships with, just belongs to and has many, that's technically possible. There's a lot of limitations you end up with. So being able to have, I talked about previously the bulk updater and being able to set IDs, and you wouldn't be able to do that. You wouldn't be able to do that really easily and quickly unless you had the concept of many-to-many relationships. So yeah, I think maybe that's about it. That's the dream, to be able to come back and in the ride home, be able to map out everything that you talked about to a client, and then literally and it's so easy to deploy because you just deploy the code. You don't have to do any API backend or anything like that. You just send it straight to something like Netlify or whatever you want to use. You could even not deploy it. You could literally just use something like expose. So what's it called? It's by Beyond Code. Yeah. Here we go. Expose basically allows you to expose a website, something on your local machine publicly on the web. So, I've got the domain ldbold.com. So I could expose, for example, myclient.ldbold.com, and then they would straight away be able to have a look at it. And I could even expose a dev server, so we could ring them up and then say to them, hey, how does this look? And they could go, oh, yeah, that looks really cool, but I was thinking that maybe you could move this over here. And then you could literally live update the code and then say, yeah, okay, have a look at it now. And they wouldn't even need to refresh the page. Like, imagine how insane that would be for a client. And then you could end up doing fancy stuff where, like, you could write some sort of code that automatically refreshes the page for them. Anyway, I got so many dreams for what you could do with this, and we're really not that far now. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I wanted this app to be super simple. I think it is. One thing that's a little bit weird, but actually kind of makes sense, is that when you click on one of these relationships, it actually selects both of them, because technically both of them are selected. Because when you click on one of these, you're editing. You kind of got to think of things a little bit differently, because you're editing the belongs to many relationship, and that encompasses the photo and the tag. Or if I click on like tag here and click on photo tags, it selects both of these, because what you're actually editing on the right here is both of them. And by the way, I'm using VueModel behind the scenes here. So if we come in here, for example, it's got all the auto updating stuff. I'm trying to dog food this so I can iron out as many bugs as quickly as I can. And if we come in here, and what's a good example? Yeah, so maybe we change this to photo tags with a few S's, and then that automatically updates beautifully in the UI. Like all of this stuff, auto update just works flawlessly. And it's so cool to see that in an app because the code for this was so simple in order to do like the auto updating stuff. And I was genuinely able to just focus on the logic. And that's just been mind blowing because this has been so long in the making. And to be able to, finally reach a point where that's becoming easy. And I hope that ends up translating to other people that use this app, VueModel. So yeah, by the way, if you want to check this out, the docs are starting to shape up a little bit. I haven't got any of the bulk updater stuff in there. I think that might be one of the next things I work on. And I think it's mostly functional now. So I got a lot of what I wanted to do with the docs is have it really easy to see examples. So you can open up a REPL. Some of the REPLs aren't quite working yet. I think most of them are though. Let's just give this a second and see if it loads correctly. Yeah, there we go. And it makes it really easy to just essentially create a code editor that you can start playing around with. So if I search for the word create here and we change that to make it, yeah, that just updates straight away. So the docs are going to be really awesome. And then, of course, you can like click on here and open up to view the code. Reset the data because it uses some sample data that it that's using the well, what do you call it? IndexedDB to store all of your data. Yeah, so you can go ahead and check that out to sort of see how things are going. It's still very much a work in progress because there's so much that I need to get done. Less so that I need to get done, but that I need to tweak in the bulk updater. That's where most of the work still needs to go. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. Thanks everyone for watching this stream, and I'll give you some more updates soon. Bye for now.